has done unconstitutional activities, broken the law.
Give me a list.
Well, look, he has deported people that without due process.
You mean Obrega Garcia?
Yes, he has.
He did get his process, though. He got adjudicated to be deported.
Yeah, well, look, the Supreme Court asked him in a 9-0 decision to facilitate bringing Mr. Garcia back.
Okay.
And he refused to do that.
What if we brought Garcia to Guantanamo? Would that satisfy you?
Well, look, so he defied Supreme Court orders.
Is this a fundraising stunt? Your campaign owes you $11 million. Why not just forgive the loan? Are you not worth the money?
I always forgive the loan. That's what happened when I ran for governor, and not a penny of my loan was paid by the campaign, and I forgave it. And that's what it will end up happening.
It will end up happening.
Yeah, because
still on the books, though.
Yeah, look, nobody has said to me, Mr. Thanedar, the 7 articles of impeachment that you presented to the U.S. Congress, they're piece of shit. You know, they're not good. You missed the point. They're not legally right. He didn't do that. No one says that, but they talk about my hair. They talk about my hair. They talk about my appearance. They talk about where I was born. They talk about everything, my looks. They talk about my age. They talk about why I should be deported back to the country where I was born. They talk about my past business dealings and they distort my business record. They do everything.
Boy. So we got to talk about a hilarious story, right? More Democrat Party infighting and drama. The first story we got to talk about here involves Shri Thanedar, right? The Trump deranged Democrat from Michigan who is trying to impeach President Trump in order to save himself from a primary challenge that is being orchestrated by the Democrat Party, right? Amazing story. And this guy essentially is now folding, right? He's folding because literally nobody supported his impeachment effort. Maybe one other Trump deranged Democrat, who knows, like Al Green, the caveman Democrat, right? Homo erectus might have supported it.
So today I want to acknowledge my colleague, a member of Congress who filed articles of impeachment. I am proud of him. I salute him. I applaud him for what he has done. He, too, is laying the groundwork for impeachment. I said some time ago now that this president would be impeached again. I said some time ago that I was going to bring articles of impeachment. And I'm proud to know that there are others who are now joining in this effort to impeach this president. I am very proud of what this congressperson has done.
But I don't think anybody else really supported this man's effort, right? And you know this because there were reports coming out about Democrats, the leadership, they were fuming. They were mad. They were upset. They were pissed off with this guy. They was like, bro, you going rogue with this impeachment effort? We're supposed to just talk about it only, okay? We're not supposed to actually try to do it. So you had Democrats going on national television basically saying that, hey, you know, what this dude is doing is a publicity stunt, and we really don't support it.
Impeaching Donald John Trump, President of the United States, for high crimes and misdemeanors. Resolution: impeaching Donald John Trump, President of the United States, for high crimes and misdemeanors. Resolved that Donald John Trump, President of the United States, is impeached for high crimes and misdemeanors, and that the following articles of impeachment be exhibited.
This is the dumbest effing thing. A waste of effing time. House Democrats are less than thrilled with Congressman Shri Thanedar, who's forcing the House of Representatives to vote on impeaching President Trump. Thanedar introduced 7 articles of impeachment against President Trump, accusing him of obstructing justice, abuse of power, bribery, and corruption. On Tuesday, Thanedar brought the articles to the House floor as a privileged resolution, which must be voted on within 2 days in accordance with the House rules. Thanedar knows his Democratic colleagues don't want him to do this, but he's doing it anyway.
I have a lot of pressure to not do this. I have a lot of pressure to go away. Don't show up for this vote. I have a lot of pressure from all sides. But we cannot back down.
House Democratic leadership says they'll vote to table the resolution, which is the official way of setting it aside and taking no further action. It's unclear exactly how many of their Democratic colleagues will join them, but their votes, combined with all House Republicans, will bring Thanedar's effort to a swift end.
We shouldn't be talking about, this proposal that is not ripe, and not timely. Impeachment is a tool that can be used, but it takes weeks and months to do.
Thanedar is very aware of the fact that he's not popular.
Some Democrats have called me lunatic, just like the president has called me lunatic. But they have never said, nobody has said to me, Mr. Thanedar, the 7 articles of impeachment that you presented to the U.S. Congress, they're piece of shit. They're not good.
Some House Democrats are accusing Thanedar of using his impeachment effort to help with his re-election campaign. He already has 2 challengers in the Democratic primary. Progressive Squad member Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib is backing one of those challengers and says Thanedar has a poorly run constituent services operation.
Well, while Democrats are trying to figure out exactly how to oppose the bill, there is this impeachment resolution for President Trump that is coming to the floor. Do you think this is a misguided attempt? This is by your colleague Shri Thanedar.
Yeah, look, I'm going to go out on a limb and predict that a majority Republican House of Representatives is not going to impeach Donald Trump. And certainly we are not going to find 67 votes in the U.S. Senate anytime soon. That is for sure. So I think it's very unfortunate that my Democratic colleague, who right now is facing a very stiff primary, chose to engage in what essentially is a publicity stunt for himself, when I and my colleagues have been up all throughout the night trying to save health coverage for millions of Americans. That's what we should be focusing on at this moment.
All right, well, I do have to...
Hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. Okay, one of the funniest stories of this week, okay, because this dude has officially folded, right? He's folded, okay? He has withdrawn his Trump impeachment bill after it angered basically everybody, okay? Let's read here. Minutes before the House was scheduled for floor votes, Democratic Representative Shri Thanedar announced he would not force a vote to impeach President Donald Trump as he had planned. Thanedar's efforts had angered not only Republicans, but also Democratic leaders who said they would work with Republicans to kill his bill. Wow. Thanedar said he was holding off on his bill, claiming he wanted to add to his impeachment articles to include Trump's plan to accept a Boeing 747 from Qatar as a gift. Yeah, so at least as of right now, he's folding, right? He claims that he's not, but it looks like he is. We will see. Regardless, again, I know a lot of people are probably wondering, why are Democrats upset about this, right? Why don't Democrats support impeaching President Trump? Because let's be real. All of the things that this guy is trying to impeach President Trump over, Democrats have been saying in the media, right? They've been screaming at the top of their lungs, right? Trump is arresting judges. We're turning into Nazi Germany, fascism. Trump is Hitler, right? Like all these things they've accused President Trump of doing, right? So you would think that, like, logically speaking, they would support it, right? If they actually believe the stuff that they're saying, but they don't, right? They don't believe the stuff they're saying. And they know, like I told you guys over and over and over again, that the worst idea that Democrats could possibly have going into the midterms is to put Trump on the ballot, right? They know this, okay? Because when Trump is on the ballot, they lose, right? Democrats lose when Trump is on the ballot. In the midterms, the Democrats, their best hope comes from the fact that Trump is not going to be on the ballot. Because when Trump is not on the ballot, GOP voters, Republicans, MAGA, they tend to not vote like they should, right? Which is a big problem that needs to be fixed. Okay, I think part of the problem is that we have a weak Republican Party, to be honest with you. The GOP is not strong enough. It's not a good enough party to motivate voters to get out and to vote. So, that's another video for another day. But again, my point is that if they actually seriously try to impeach the president, right? Again, you're putting Trump on the ballot. You're motivating people to get out and vote because people know that, okay, well, if Democrats win the midterms, specifically, if they take back the House, they're going to stop President Trump's agenda, and they're going to spend the next 2 years doing an impeachment hoax against the president, right? That's what they're going to do, even though Democrats have zero chance of actually removing Trump because they're not going to take back the Senate, right? The Senate map for them does not look good in the midterms, right? So Democrats know that this is a losing effort, right? That this is not something they should do, and that this guy is really messing it up for them, right? By trying to actually make this a thing, because the more that he tries to make it a thing, the more that the voters are going to expect Democrats to actually move forward with trying to remove President Trump, right? And again, if that's what Democrats want to run on in the midterms, it's going to backfire because you're just going to motivate more Trump supporters to get out and vote, right? They don't actually really want to try to impeach the president right now because it's just not a good strategy, right? It's going to look like what it is, which is a witch hunt, okay? It's just another game that Democrats are playing, wasting people's time. Instead of legislating, instead of actually trying to work with the president, they're spending time being against the president, and it's just not a good look, right? So Democrats know this, and again, this is why they are lashing out at this guy, right? So that being said, more Democrat Party infighting that we got to talk about. As everybody should know, the DNC is trying to oust David Hogg. The reason why they're trying to oust David Hogg is because David Hogg is trying to primary Democrats in safe districts who aren't woke enough, right? And that has really pissed off the DNC to the point where they had an initial vote to remove David Hogg because they claimed that the initial DNC elections were rigged, right? They were rigged, okay? They were sexist, and that a woman needs to be a DNC chair, right? That is essentially the argument. But again, the real reason why they're trying to get rid of David Hogg is because he's challenging the status quo, right? So that is the reason why they're trying to get rid of David Hogg, okay? And it's funny because now you have Malcolm Kenyatta, who is the co-DNC chair. They also basically voted to have a re-election for his seat as well too, because he was a part of the DNC chair vote that, again, they said was sexist, but he's coming out against David Hogg in order to save his seat, right? In order to increase his chances of getting reelected. He's basically now trashing David Hogg and calling him out on national television in what, again, is a full-blown Democrat Party civil war, right? The most entertaining drama on television. So without further ado, let's get into it.
But there comes a time where you have to address the circus that has been created by David. And for weeks now, I have tried to ignore what he has come on every network that will have him. I know he's been here multiple times.
Because you didn't say anything for a number of
No, I didn't.
weeks.
I didn't. I didn't say anything for a number of weeks because it leads to the inevitable feedback that you get of we don't want to see the party fighting. We don't want to see people fighting. We want to see the Democratic Party that is strong enough to meet this moment and talk about, as I said, how we make life better for working people and working families. But here's the problem. David has a very casual relationship with the truth. And he has not been truthful on so many points that have been raised on this show. And what pushed me over the edge was the statement that he put out after this vote of the Credentials Committee. And I want to be very clear. I got well over the number of votes you needed because of the support of DNC members that trusted me to do the job I'm now doing. And so am I frustrated that they are now effectively invalidating my election and saying that we need to run in another election? Of course I'm frustrated. But David's first statement out of the gate was, here's the Democratic Party doing some maniacal thing to push me out because of what he's doing with his pact. David knows that that is not true. And so for all of the people who have, like I had, really high hopes for what David could bring for this party and who are now looking at the message that he's been pushing out and the emails that they've been getting from him about how he wants to reform the party, you have to be honest with people. And I know how disappointing it is to have me here tonight on your TV screen not talking about Donald Trump. But David has not been honest. And there's an old saying that a lie will get halfway around the block while the truth is putting its shoes on. Well, the truth has its shoes on, and the truth is going to fight back, and I'm going to do that tonight, and I'm going to continue to do that.
Now, you said that he's been fast and loose with the facts without rebuttal. What are the things that you are accusing David Hogg of lying about?
Not accusing him, I'm just telling people what he's done. So he put out a statement saying that the Democratic Party, that the challenge yesterday is the Democratic Party trying to get him out of here. David understands very well, like I understand, that this challenge was filed back in February, well before David ever said anything about leaders we deserve. And the reason the hearing is just taking place now is because, unlike this administration, the Democratic Party does believe in due process. And so there was an ability for the person who lost to submit their challenge. There was an opportunity for us to respond. And then the the Credentials Committee had to get together and set up a timeline to hear that. That's the reason of the timeline. And so for him to put out a statement saying that this is about what I'm doing to reform the party, he knows that that is false.
Are there other things that he's done and said in the last month?
Absolutely. And here's what's so disappointing. I know that this party has to change. It has to change in massive ways. And I did not run because I thought everything was going great. I ran because I thought that we needed to be a Democratic Party that, as I've said now, is focused on working people and working families and how we're going to make their lives better. That's what we should be doing. That's what I've tried to do. And I think our chair, and Ken Martin, has also tried to do that and do it in ways that I know to the average person is boring. But Simone, you've been on the DNC, and we operate through a complex system of rules. Ken Martin put forward the most dynamic and transformational rules reform package we've ever seen, including for the first time ever actually giving up some of his authority to appoint members to key committees to democratize the process. David sat in a meeting with me where Ken laid out that agenda well before Leaders We Deserve. And he understood why those reforms are being put forward. And then he goes on Bill Maher, he goes on wherever he goes and says that these reforms are a way to muzzle me. So how do you say to people that I'm going to reform the Democratic Party when you have such tenuous connection to the facts? That can't happen. And we are in a position where it's like being in class where somebody's throwing something at the back of your head and, you say nothing and then you finally turn around. And I'm finally turning around to ask David to stop with the mischaracterizations, to stop with the untruths, and to get back to the work of building the Democratic Party.
Yeah, so the Democrat Party is a full-blown freak show, as you can see here, right? A lot of infighting, full-blown civil war, from the top down, right? From the top down, the Democrat Party is a complete and total disaster, okay? So what Malcolm Kenyatta is saying, okay, what he's arguing is that David Hogg is not being honest about the real reason why they had this vote to have a new election, right? The real reason is that the election was sexist, right? According to this guy, okay? But I personally believe that the vote in and of itself, in regards to their choice to have a new election, I definitely think it was influenced by David Hogg and what he was doing. Okay. Now, again, the challenge may have started before David Hogg came out with his idea to essentially challenge Democrats who aren't woke enough. But to say that didn't have an influence, I don't know, right? I'm just saying, I'm pretty sure it does, considering how the DNC chair and the Democrats have made it clear they don't like what David Hogg is doing. Okay, so what this guy is doing is that he's basically now turning on David Hogg in order to save himself, because he's technically up for re-election as well too, due to the fact that both of their seats are essentially being voided because the election was sexist, right? So now he's trying to save himself by going after David Hogg, right? Instead of just having a private conversation. This dude could have called up David Hogg and had this private conversation, right? And, went from there. But they all decided they're going to air this out on television for the public to see. And I just think it's hilarious, right? It's a full-blown clown show. Wokeness is destroying the Democrat Party. They are collapsing under the weight of wokeness. That's what you're seeing right now. The Democrat Party is in a state of free fall from the top down, So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.